Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. This week I'm going to be reviewing Justice Machine from Comico from 1986. And yes, I said Comico because I believe it's Comico and not Comico. I don't care what anybody says. But anyway, before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own comics. These are random access, and if you'd like to get some of these, it would help the channel and help my art career very much, and I'd really, truly appreciate it. I send these out to patrons at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, and it's a 12-page, full-size, full-color comic, and it has, like I said, it's 12 pages. You can also get these at alexanderturbin.com, or you could just message me on Instagram at alexturbin04401, or you could just message me here too. That's cool too. Alexanderturbin.com, it has a whole bunch of different artwork of mine, and all through my different phases, I guess, or timeline, or whatever. I don't know. Whatever you call it. Anyway, Justice Machine, 1986, from Comico. I always, I got most of my comics from when I started reading to like maybe 4 or 5 years after that, maybe 3 or 4 years after that, until the comic book store came around into my town. We hadn't had one, and I just went down to the local bookstore, which is called Mr. Paperback, and they're all gone now. Seems like almost all bookstores are gone. But anyway, I would go down to the comic books, the bookstore, and pick up my. They weren't on a spinner rack, but they were against the wall, and I would pick up my Marvels and DCs, and every once in a while I'd pick up a Comico, but they were more expensive, $1.50, where the other comics were like either $1.75 at the time. And so I really had to really want something from Comico in order for me to pay that exorbitant $1.50. And I was happy to do it to buy things like Grendel, or I don't think Mage was on the newsstand at the time, but I definitely picked up Grendel, and I picked up a couple other things. I never picked up Justice Machine or Elementals though. So this is a reading for the first time, and I kind of wish I had picked them up, because reading it, this is a 4-issue miniseries, and reading it, it was a joy to read. So excuse me. Let's get into Justice Machine. It's not the Justice Machine. It's just Justice Machine. So the basically, I'm just gonna go through the story, and then we'll look at the art and writing. And so it's basically some sort of soldiers are being attacked, or attacking somewhere, and then they are instead attacked, and they don't think it's going to be any big deal. They can defend whoever it is, but it's Justice Machine, and they're attacking some kind of villainous complex. And it's created and is illustrated by Mike Gustovich, and written by Bill Willingham, colored by Tom Vincent, and lettered by Bob Pena, edited by Diana Schultz. And so I think I had always thought that this was written and drawn by Bill Willingham. Doesn't he draw the Elementals? But anyway, I guess this is just written by Bill Willingham, and he's gone on to do Fables, and he's done a whole bunch of stuff, and he's been a pretty good writer. I haven't read any of the Fables, and but I've read a few of his other things. He's never really really wowed me with anything, but he's a pretty good writer, and the art is very solid. I'm gonna say that from the very beginning. But so it's Justice Machine, and they're attacking some kind of soldiers, and they're using all of this standard superhero strategy. It's more of a military. You can tell it's more of a military superhero group, kind of like New Mutants turned into with X Force and stuff. And I think that was what superheroes were kind of trending into that way. So anyway, Justice Machine, they're attacking this military complex or rebel complex or something, and they're going to capture some kind of big bad, and they're having basically just a fight between the Justice Machine and these soldiers. They don't really introduce any of the Justice Machine. I guess there was a Justice Machine comic or series of comics before this, and I've never actually laid eyes on it or anything. I didn't even really know that there was one before this until reading the intro letter, which let me know. But it doesn't really introduce the characters, but it introduces their powers, and it kind of introduces them on the fly. And it's not like a lot of Marvel comics or DC comics where it'll have a little blurb above them, especially X-Men. X-Men did that all the time. Like, this is Storm. Her powers are blah, blah, blah. And she was buried under a bunch of rubble, and that's why she can't stand to be under closed places or whatever. Anyway, they don't do any of that. It's all action on the fly, and that's pretty cool, pretty refreshing. I think I had never picked this up because I just considered it your standard superhero comic book, and that's fine. But if I'm gonna go start a new series of a superhero comic, I think I'm gonna go with Marvel and DC just because of stupid reasons. And now I think I would go the other way, and I would much rather see a superhero team up or team done by a an indie creator rather than the big two, because they're I think their ideas for the big two are just a little washed out at the moment. But I don't know, maybe not. Anyway, so you've got the soldiers protecting the master or the Dark Lord or whatever, and this is all very standard comic book superhero fare, not comic book fare, but superhero fare. And anyway, the master puts this other person into some sort of hologram imaging chamber so nobody can see him. And the Justice Machine comes and they fight, and they want to fight the Dark Lord Master or whatever he's called, and they do, and he's super powerful, he's super tough, but they eventually beat him because they're the Justice Machine and they're awesome. And here's some advertisements. Mage, I definitely love Mage. Johnny Quest, I don't think I ever read any Johnny Quest, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll check that out. But here's more a fight with the Dark Lord, and he finally loses and Justice Machine wins. And it's hinted at that this is a alternate universe or alternate planet out in space or something. It's called like Geovin or something like that. It's not Earth. And then so this little dude comes out of the imaging chamber. I swiped that from Quantum Leap. Any of you Quantum Leap fans out there? And so I guess it was all the plan of the Dark Lord to be captured and for this guy to get away. So his plan is about to come to fruition, which it's kind of cool because this is where I kind of realized that things aren't exactly what they seem to be. This is after the fight. The Justice Machine, they're told to take a break by their commanding officer, and they're all deciding how they're going to take their vacation time. But one of them screwed up, and so that's why he has to go through this other course or anything. So anyway, the little dude that escaped, he's talking to somebody. They don't really say who it is, but there's this like magical book that that this dude is going to use. I don't think it's the little guy. The little guy uses this magical book to transport people from Earth. So we go to Earth, and from wherever it is, and this is the all of the elementals. The elementals are all they have superpowers that are coordinate with the elements. Like there's a rock guy, there's a fire person, there's air, and there's water. So it's kind of a little Fantastic Four-y, a little bit not, but it's pretty cool. But it just goes through their daily routine until they're being zapped away. It's very reminiscent of Secret Wars when they're just doing their thing, and then Spider-Man is just zapped off into the Beyonders planet. This is very similar to that, and I had a huge thought that that's what was going on. So there's the little guy that was hidden by the Dark Master, and the Elementals are caged by this little dude, and they're not happy. But then the little guy, he's like, he thinks that they're under his control because he tried to summon elemental magical creatures to help him in his cause, but instead he got the elementals, and so he's surprised that they're not under his control. But so after a while later, they're talking, and the little guy explains to the elementals that the world has a domineering force, and they use the justice machine to exact their control over society, and that he's with the rebel factions that are really trying to make things better in their planet. So the elementals decide to help him out because they're good guys, and they want to help out the downtrodden and the weak and all that stuff. So they decide to go and attack, and the rock guy falls from this flying vehicle and smashes into the Justice Machine base or whatever. And the other guy, the flying guy, I can't even remember their names. So I think that's that Fathom, or is Fathom from that image. Anyway, he flies them into the Justice Machine, and they are all running to get into the battle and win the day or whatever. And the Justice Machine attacks the Elementals, and that is how the first episode or issue ends. And here's an advertisement from Age 13, which is freaking amazing. And here's the Jack Kirby petition to get Marvel to give Jack his comics back, which is really awesome. I would have signed that easily. So the writing is really, really, it's good. All of the characters have really nice voices. There's not a lot of unnecessary, what would you say, exposition. It's almost all done in dialogue. There are some things that are kind of explaining what is going on in an action scene if it's not completely clear, or it's maybe some subtext letting you know about things that are going on while the action is going on. I do think that this character looks a hell of a lot like what the heck's his name, Cyclops' dad in the Starjammers. Looks a little too much like him. I can't remember his name either. That's what happens when you get old. You can't remember stuff. But anyway, the writing is really nice. It's not too much. Like I said, it starts off and it's just this kind of generic superhero team fare, and I'm getting a little bored. Like this first 5, 6, 7 pages, I'm getting a little bit bored. But they start fighting the Dark Master, and I'm kind of realizing that, like he says, a little Jor-El. That's the name of the planet, and Jor-El is a repressing police state, and its chief enforcers. I'm thinking Justice Machine is the chief enforcers of repression, and so things take a little bit of a turn, and that's what I really like about comics. That's what Alan Moore does a lot. Is he'll take this standard superhero thing and just flip it on its head, and that's kind of what I feel like the Justice Machine was attempting to do, and I don't know if they actually did it out. I might have to check out some more issues to figure it out. Um, and their character interactions are really good. They have little, snippy parts where they're not happy with each other, and it's some cool dialogue. And like I said, it switches into from this regular superhero thing into this a little bit more complex um, universe building thing. And the elementals being in here, I never read any elementals, but I knew of them from reading about things and magazines, stuff like that. And they're quite popular, I guess. I don't know how popular Justice Machine was, but I think the elementals did a little bit more stuff. So like I said, nice character interaction. The story moved very fluidly. I was never bored. I might have thought it was a little generic in the beginning, but I was never really bored with the writing because it held my attention, and I really I really liked it. As for the art, I'm not going to say anything bad about it because I never the narrative art is very good. I never had to backtrack. I was never confused as to what was going on. Um, it's not something super fantastic. Um, I like this pose here. He's got some really good poses as far as his drawing, and his anatomy looks pretty good, and the panel layout is pretty strong. I I guess this goes into the how it looks kind of standard and generic, and I really think if they wanted to break the superhero mold, they could have done something a little bit differently. The It's very colorful. All of the characters look more like they're in the not the Justice League, but the Legion of Superheroes. They look very Legion of Superhero-y, which there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you're into. I I read a few Legion stuff in my day, and and their expressions and their faces and all of that stuff is very good. I kind of wish there were a few more backgrounds in some of these panels, and they just add these colors, the orange and the blue. I think this might be early really early computer coloring. Maybe 86. Nah, they wouldn't be doing any computer coloring. I think it's just how it is. But the paper is on a nicer, heavier stock. It's not the newsprint, which I love newsprint. Everybody does now anyway. I don't know why they don't just switch to newsprint again. Everybody would love that. Um, but yeah, the art is solid. He could have done a thing a little bit more dynamic. That's what he's really trying. You can see that he wants his poses to be as dynamic as they can be. Um, but there's dynamic, and then there's also flat dynamic. Like here's some good foreshortening with his fist, and he's going. He could have been way back here, further back, but I guess you wouldn't have seen him. But you don't need to see him because no, I guess it is part of the fight sequence. Like he's hitting him high, he's hitting him low, kind of thing. So if they're gonna do that kind of thing, I think it needs to be less panels and bigger panels to really delve into the action. Like I said, more backgrounds would have been nice. There's really no backgrounds here except for the floor right here, and and there could have been a little bit more texture. But overall, I'm really I like the art. Like I said, it doesn't blow me away. It's nothing. I would never go looking for the artist. Um, I would never go looking for his other stuff. Mike Gustovich, and like there's some artists that you see him the first time and you're like, oh, I need to seek out as much of his stuff as I can possibly find. I remember that's how it was with Carlos Pacheco for me. I first saw his stuff in X-Men, and then I was like, I got to check out every little thing he's ever done because I really loved his dynamic poses and stuff. So yeah, overall, it's I would give it a higher score if not for the beginning generic stuff. But I guess that generic stuff is set there to lull you into a sense of sense of mediocrity, I guess. They want you to think that it's just a regular thing. Like maybe the Justice Machine aren't good. Maybe they're just bad, or they're being duped or whatever. So it's a complex story with a very basic beginning. So you can't real I can't truly judge the whole story on this one issue. I don't think it would be like judging the Watchmen on issue one and nothing else, which that its best issues are later on. So anyway, it's got a few limitations in my view, but overall it's a fun, enjoyable read, and it makes me want to check out some more Justice Machine, and that I think is one of the biggest selling points to a comic. Uh, if you're trying to produce it and get it out there and stuff, is getting people to want to read the next issue. That is the challenge, and I think I would want to read the next issue. So I'm going to seek out some more Justice Machines. Um, so I would give this a 7. Yep, a solid 7, because it is well written and it is well drawn, and it just has a few limitations. But it's a 7. And if you guys like this kind of content, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And also let me know if you read Justice Machine and Elementals, and if you think it's Comico or Comico. And yeah, so thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you next time.